Google employees didn't realize they were helping move more than $120 million into the hands of a scammer. At first, the invoices looked completely ordinary. The supplier name already existed inside company systems, the formatting matched previous documents, and the payment requests arrived mixed between hundreds of normal emails, procurement updates, accounting reports, and internal notifications. Nothing about the fraud looked dramatic while it was happening, which is probably why it survived for so long without attracting serious attention. The company mentioned in the invoices was Quanta Computer, a real electronics manufacturer from Taiwan that already worked with major technology firms. Employees inside Google and Facebook recognized the name immediately because Quanta supplied servers and hardware used across the industry. That detail mattered more than most people realize. Employees inside giant corporations don't stop and investigate every familiar supplier from scratch. If the company already exists inside internal systems, people naturally assume the request has probably been verified somewhere earlier in the process. The man behind the operation was Evaldas Rimasauskas, a businessman from Lithuania who understood how routine can quietly hide massive mistakes inside large organizations. He didn't look like the kind of person most people imagine when they hear the words international cybercriminal. Photos released after his arrest showed a middle-aged businessman standing beside police officers in ordinary clothes. The entire story looked strangely normal from beginning to end. That contrast became one of the reasons the case spread so aggressively online. People expected some genius hacker operating from a dark room full of screens. Instead, investigators found somebody whose biggest weapon was patience and an understanding of how distracted office workers become inside giant companies. By the mid-2000s, Google and Facebook were expanding at a speed that created enormous internal pressure. Google already employed more than 70,000 people worldwide, while Facebook kept scaling infrastructure for billions of users and opening offices across multiple continents. Inside companies that large, finance departments process endless streams of information every day. Invoices, procurement requests, contracts, spreadsheets, vendor updates, accounting approvals, and payment chains moving between different departments. After a while, most of it starts blending together. Employees approve requests while jumping between meetings, Slack conversations, dashboards, procurement systems, and endless email threads. That environment became the perfect place for fraud built around familiarity instead of technical sophistication. According to prosecutors, Rimasauskas created fake company accounts using Quanta's identity and began sending forged invoices directly to employees inside Google and Facebook. The documents included fake contracts, signatures, and corporate stamps designed to imitate legitimate supplier communication closely enough to survive quick reviews during busy workdays. Some invoices reportedly requested several $million at once, and employees approved them because nothing immediately looked unusual. One of the strange details about the case is that the scam reportedly continued for almost 2 years before authorities fully uncovered what was happening. During that period, more than $120 million moved through accounts connected to countries including Cyprus, Latvia, Lithuania, Hong Kong, Hungary, and Slovakia. Investigators later said the fraud relied heavily on international transfers designed to make the money difficult to trace once it started crossing borders. Facebook alone reportedly transferred around $99 million connected to the operation before the scam collapsed. Google reportedly lost roughly $23 million. Those numbers made headlines around the world because they completely clashed with the public image of Silicon Valley companies as nearly untouchable technology giants protected by elite engineers and advanced cybersecurity systems. Then fake invoices quietly moved millions of dollars through their internal processes for almost 2 years. The contrast felt surreal. Some newspapers described the case almost like satire. Headlines sounded unbelievable. Google and Facebook tricked out of $100 million. Fake invoices fooled Silicon Valley giants. Lithuanian man scams biggest tech companies in the world. But cybersecurity experts weren't nearly as shocked because scams like this exploit something much older than technology: human attention. And the scale of modern office distraction is difficult to overstate. Researchers studying workplace productivity have repeatedly found that employees lose huge amounts of concentration every day, switching between emails, notifications, meetings, and internal communication tools. One study from the University of California, Irvine, found that after interruptions, workers needed an average of more than 20 minutes to fully regain focus on a task. Inside large corporations, interruptions happen constantly. Slack notifications appear every few minutes. Meetings overlap. Emails arrive faster than people can realistically process them carefully. That creates dangerous conditions for fraud. An employee receives a payment request while simultaneously answering messages from 3 different departments. Another worker reviews supplier paperwork during a meeting they barely want to attend. Somebody else approves transfers late in the afternoon after spending 8 hours buried under repetitive administrative tasks. Scammers understand that exhaustion better than most managers do. According to FBI data, business email compromise scams caused more than $50 billion in reported global losses between 2013 and 2022. Victims included banks, universities, law firms, hospitals, manufacturers, real estate companies, and multinational corporations. Many attacks looked painfully simple from the outside. A believable request sent to somebody already overwhelmed with normal work. That's often enough. One detail investigators later highlighted was how realistic the fake supplier communication looked. Some forged email domains reportedly differed from legitimate addresses by only tiny changes that busy employees could easily miss during quick reviews: a missing letter, a slightly altered spelling, an extra character hidden inside a long email chain. Most people think they would notice something like that immediately. Most people are probably wrong, especially inside environments where employees process hundreds of requests every single week. And that's partly why the story spread so aggressively online after the case became public. People working in offices immediately recognized how plausible the situation felt. Almost everybody has approved something too quickly before. Almost everybody has skimmed through documents while distracted. Almost everybody has trusted familiarity instead of carefully verifying details from the beginning. The Google and Facebook fraud exposed how dangerous those tiny shortcuts become when billions of dollars move through giant systems every day. The investigation itself became complicated because the money moved internationally so quickly. Authorities later traced transfers through multiple countries, while banks attempted to freeze accounts before funds disappeared permanently. Some reports suggested portions of the money were transferred almost immediately after arriving in intermediary accounts, creating layers designed to slow investigators down. Eventually, Lithuanian authorities arrested Rimasauskas in 2017 following a request from the United States. Later, he pleaded guilty to wire fraud. U.S. prosecutors eventually recovered part of the stolen money after some transfers were frozen during the investigation, although millions had already moved through international accounts before authorities intervened. Court documents later revealed another fascinating detail. Facebook reportedly recovered a significant portion of the stolen funds relatively quickly because one bank noticed suspicious activity and froze some transfers before the money fully disappeared. That small interruption may have prevented losses from becoming even larger. Some investigators later pointed out that the fraud succeeded, partly because large corporations often separate financial processes across many departments. One employee checks invoices, another approves vendors, another confirms transfers, another handles accounting reconciliation later. That fragmentation creates situations where everybody assumes somebody else already verified the important details earlier in the chain. In psychology, this is sometimes called diffusion of responsibility, and large organizations are full of it. The bigger the system becomes, the easier it is for people to trust processes they only partially understand. That's one reason scammers increasingly target corporations instead of individuals. A giant company processing billions of dollars every year can sometimes become less sensitive to unusual payments simply because the scale is so massive. A $2 million invoice inside a $1 trillion ecosystem doesn't always feel emotionally big to employees reviewing hundreds of requests every week. Another strange part of the story is how invisible the fraud probably felt internally while it was happening. Nobody inside Google or Facebook thought they were starring in some massive cybercrime documentary. At some point, an employee likely approved one of the fake invoices while drinking coffee and preparing for another meeting. Somebody else probably reviewed supplier records late in the evening while trying to clear notifications before going home. That's what makes the story feel unsettling. The scam blended perfectly into normal office life. Even years later, cybersecurity teams still reference the case during corporate training sessions because it demonstrates how dangerous distraction and routine can become inside modern organizations. The story keeps resurfacing because office culture has only become more chaotic since then. Employees now jump constantly between Zoom calls, Slack notifications, cloud dashboards, approval systems, shared documents, and project management tools. Important financial decisions are often made while multitasking through several conversations at the same time. Remote work accelerated that fragmentation even further. Many employees now approve invoices from home offices, airports, hotel rooms, coffee shops, or phones while traveling. That creates perfect conditions for scams built around familiarity and distraction, and criminals are evolving fast. In early 2024, police in Hong Kong reported that scammers used deepfake technology during a fake video conference call and convinced a finance employee to transfer roughly $25 million after digitally impersonating company executives on camera. The employee reportedly believed the meeting was completely real. Investigators later said AI-generated voices and manipulated video were used during the conversation. Cybersecurity analysts now warn that AI tools are making fraud dramatically cheaper and easier to scale. Criminals can generate realistic emails in seconds, imitate writing styles, clone voices, and create fake meetings convincing enough to fool experienced employees. Some experts believe corporate scams built around AI impersonation could become one of the fastest-growing cybercrime categories over the next decade. That possibility makes the Google and Facebook case feel strangely modern, even years later. The scam happened before ChatGPT, before widespread deepfakes, before AI-generated voice cloning became widely accessible. And yet the core idea behind the fraud already looked very similar to what modern scams are becoming now. manipulate trust instead of attacking systems directly. That story sounded absurd, too, at least until people remembered how ordinary the Google and Facebook fraud originally looked from the inside. No dramatic cyber attack shut systems down. Nobody broke into Google the way movies usually imagine hacking. The fraud moved quietly through systems designed to process huge amounts of information quickly. Employees trusted familiar names, approved routine-looking paperwork, and continued with their day, while millions of dollars disappeared into accounts controlled by somebody thousands of kilometers away. And for nearly 2 years, nobody fully understood what was happening.
Thank you so much for listening to this audiobook. I truly hope these words inspired you, motivated you, and gave you something valuable to take with you into everyday life. If you enjoyed this recording, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and explore my other inspiring audiobooks created to support your growth, mindset, and motivation. Your support means a lot and helps me create more content for listeners like you. See you in the next audiobook.